So, Noland Arbaugh, thank you so much for your time. You are the first Neuralink's patient, and you underwent your surgery back in January. If I can start, please, with the first question. How does it feel now? It's been about 7 months. Of course, we were watching the developments, but would you be willing to say how it feels and what are the latest updates?
Yeah, it feels great. Things have been going really well. There was a dip in performance at the beginning, but ever since they recorrected that, it's been a steady climb upwards. We're always working on new and exciting things. We're always talking about things, getting approval from the FDA to try new things. Um, since it's a safety study,
Mhm.
basically, we have to get approval from the FDA to do certain things like control external objects and things like that. But it's been fun. Recently, I think just yesterday, we were doing things with handwriting.
Mhm.
We started with, I think, five or six characters to try and let the Neuralink learn what I was trying to do. And
Mhm.
I spelled a few words with my handwriting, which is very, very cool.
Mhm. That's
Um,
nice.
yeah, it's really cool. And it's just the beginning. Like we're almost 6 months in, I think. And um, I know that they're about to get a second participant here.
Mhm.
So things will start ramping up a lot. So it's been great. I've had a lot of fun.
As you mentioned, the handwriting, would you mind describing how is the process through, I'm trying to imagine it, but how would you describe if you were trying to do this experiment?
Yeah, so it's just like how anyone would handwrite. They have
Yeah.
like a pen or a pencil, a marker or something, and then they write out, say you write out your name on a piece of paper. That's all I do. I write out a combination of words, maybe 50 words, and I do a block of those 50 words where I write each word. I mean, it might take me 20 minutes, and I do that 5, 6 times, and then the algorithm learns those specific letters that I'm using, and then they build a model. So models are basically just a way that the output of an algorithm of what it's learned over however much information you feed it. So it gives me a model, and then I can then write those letters, like handwrite, and it should output what I'm trying to do, and it seems to work pretty well.
And what, if you don't mind mentioning, or if you can actually, what are the other experiments you found exciting or interesting?
Yeah, there's a lot. We did one that's finger spelling, so like sign language, which I thought is really, really cool. I can finger spell in sign language the alphabet, and it seems that the algorithms pick that up really, really well too. Different experiments involving like video games have always been fun. I really enjoy that. I know most people have seen at this point. We did Mario Kart, and Mario Kart's just one of my favorite games. So that was a lot of fun. I really do enjoy all the work that I do with them.
And what are the upcoming ones you think will be exciting, apart of from the handwriting, for example?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. Like I said, they're trying to get approval from the FDA to allow me to do different things with the Neuralink. We have to
Mhm.
go through the FDA to make sure they're okay with me controlling external objects. So right now I'm
Okay.
controlling a computer, but
Yeah.
if I want to say, control a car, then we have to go through the FDA and get approval for that. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime in the near future, but
Mhm.
maybe at some point in the study, it's something that they'll be able to do. Hook me up to a car and let me like test it out or something.
Mhm.
So things like that, and I'm really excited for those because there's a lot of really cool things that they want me to try. And then just controlling other devices, a phone, different gaming consoles, different things around my room, just like assistive devices and things.
Mhm.
There's a lot coming down the pipeline with that. I think that's what I'm most looking forward to at this point.
I'm surprised that the FDA needs approval. I would understand you would need approval for a car, but for example, for a phone or something, I still cannot imagine like why one needs to go through the FDA to actually circle back. But I bet that they have good reasons, hopefully, for that.
Yeah, it's just because since it's a safety study, since it's the first human clinical trial,
Yeah.
they don't know if the Neuralink is safe to control devices. Like, they don't know if it's safe for me to get behind the wheel of a car, because
That
if
makes
I'm
sense.
in the car and the Neuralink goes on the fritz, if it freaks out, if it disconnects and I'm in a car, that could seriously injure me or someone else. So they have to make sure that all of those things are stable and that nothing would potentially go wrong before they allow me to control something like that. It's a lot of red tape too. So the FDA has their reasons, and I guess that's about it.
And you also mentioned a phone. Can you? I was listening to some interviews where they were explaining that they will try to put the application which you have in the laptop to the iPhone, for example. Is it correct? Am I so far? Please correct me. If I'm misrepresenting. So after that, it will be same usage of the iPhone as the laptop, right? Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
it's similar. Like you said, there's an app on my computer that they are tinkering away with. They're trying to figure it out for a Mac at this point. And all what they would be able to do is just take that application and upload it onto really any device, onto a phone, onto a different computer, onto a tablet, anything like that, and I would be able to control it. Obviously, things would need to be tweaked. Say, for a computer, a lot of it is based on cursor control. That you don't have a cursor on a phone or um, on a tablet or anything. So you would have to change some things with that. But it's supposed to be just something where you would be able to upload it onto a different device.
So, what do you think are the biggest advantages for you? And if you know about any disadvantage, maybe there is none, but just curious, what do you think are the biggest advantages at this moment?
I mean, I can just do a lot of what a regular person can do on the computer now. It gives me the ability to be competitive in, say video games for like for fun, but then competitive in the workforce. It's something where I might be able to get a job that I wasn't able to before because I'm able to, do a lot that other people are able to do. I could go back to school, and I think that's a huge advantage because I've wanted to go back to school and finish my degree for a long time, but it just didn't seem feasible because I couldn't, like, I didn't know how I was going to write papers or do math or anything along those lines. So now it's still a bit complicated, but it's something that I have a lot of hope for the future now. And, it's just helped me with my independence a lot.
What was your degree in?
Yeah, so I was a glorified political science major.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, I was a international studies, politics, and diplomacy major. I had sort of an emphasis on French. I'm not sure that I would go back for that anymore. I don't know. My life has taken some weird twists and turns,
Yeah.
so maybe it would make more sense to go back for something like clinical neurology or something like that, where I focus more on kind of what I'm specializing in at this point.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to touch upon, that what you're going through is actually really a full-time job. It's maybe even more difficult than that because you use it around 69 hours, right, a week. And we could think that 40 hours a week is a full-time job. So how do you view it? Do you get tired?
I don't get tired. I think that's part of the issue is I just want to stay up all the time on it. Um, the other day I couldn't sleep, so I decided to hop on at around 2 a.m. and I ended up using it all day. I used it about 17 hours that day. I played straight through the day, charged a couple times, and I didn't get off until midnight the next day. So it was a super long day. I do still use it with them in sessions, more on a part-time basis. So I go 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, with them on just structured sessions, which is with Neuralink doing study stuff. But then all the time that I spend on it outside of that, which is up to 10 hours a day, including sessions. So maybe another 6 hours outside of sessions. I think it's probably a little more than that. But all of that is going towards the study as well, because any real world use is just going to help them. As they've put it before, you can learn some with a car on a closed track. So when they're going to release a new car, they have like a closed track, generally somewhere away from everyone else, where they go and test out the car in closed conditions. But you'll learn more when you release it out into the public and let it go onto real roads and in the real world. So I work a lot with it, but it's not tiring in that way. I just get tired because my body needs to sleep. My body is lesser than the Neuralink at this point.
Yeah, it sounds that you're crossing these 69 hours at this point, which are, that's cool. I think what you are doing is really impressive, and I bet, it will influence millions of people. Were you already connected to their second patient? I know that there was supposed to be surgery in June, if I'm not mistaken, and it got postponed. Are you like guiding the new girl or guy through the process, or are you waiting after the surgery?
No, I asked if the next participant wanted to meet with me, whoever they may be. I haven't heard back yet. I know that they are planning on doing it. So when that happens, then I'm more than happy to be a part of their journey and give them any sort of advice that they might want. It's yet to be seen.
Noland, I know that you described it already a few times, but for our audience, it would be really interesting to hear from you how you are going through the movements. Once you hear it, it's easier to imagine it, but many people actually didn't yet listen to it. How are you going through it to actually influence the cursor on the laptop?
Yeah, so there are a couple different ways that I can move the cursor at this point. It all starts with what we call attempted movement. So everything in my brain still works. My all the signals are still there. The implant is implanted into my motor cortex on the left side of my brain, specifically the part of my brain that controls my right hand movement. And so all of those signals are still active. They're still firing. It's just they can't get down to the rest of my body because there's a disconnect in my spinal cord. When I try to move my hand, even though it doesn't move, that attempted movement is still firing neurons in my brain. And when that happens, the Neuralink, with the threads that are implanted in the motor cortex, picks up those signals and it translates them into what I'm trying to do. Like it learns what I'm trying to do. So if you think about a cursor calibration, basically it'll tell you to move the cursor left, right, up, down. And when you do those things, it attributes what you're doing to what it's telling you to do. And then it learns from that, and then you get control. The same with me. It will show me a picture of a hand on a screen, and it will move the hand over to the right or over to the left or up, and I follow those things, and then it learns, it matches what I'm doing to what it wants me to do. And then every time I want to go right at that point, then it will match the two up and it'll move the cursor right. After a while, that turns into what I call, or what we call, imagine movement, which is I no longer have to attempt to move my hand in order to get the cursor to move. I just think that I want the cursor to move and it moves. It takes a little while for the algorithm to learn that, but eventually it's more than capable.
How long did it take you to adjust to this sort of style of thinking?
Yeah, it wasn't intuitive, so it didn't happen immediately. I think maybe once I got cursor control, it took me about a week before I really understood that it was capable of moving without me actually attempting to move. Because it makes sense to me that attempted movements work. It makes sense. Like I said, all of the signals are still going on in my brain. So if it's just reading those signals and then learning from that and moving where I want it to move, that makes sense. But not having to move and just thinking it is very, very odd.
Yeah. That's cool. It sounds really interesting. I was wondering, this is a huge deal what you're doing, and it's actually inspirational, not only for people who could possibly want Neuralink, but also for people around the world, because I think your life changed very suddenly. You had to adjust, you had to keep fighting and sort of get up. And now you actually turn this all 180 to a completely different and new direction. And I also suppose it had to be in a way scary, but you were very brave to try to help other people. If you could touch upon how did you feel? How did you arrive at this conclusion? What inspired you, or how long did you take actually thinking about it?
Yeah, well, from when I applied um, until I had my final sort of interview was a month. And I went through, I don't know, maybe 10 interviews. And the last one was a full day of like testing in a hospital, brain scans, blood draws, urine draws, everything, like psychological exams. So it was 8 hours of testing. And then after that, it was a waiting game. And there was a lot to think about. Obviously, as a quadriplegic, the brain is sort of my last real working piece of myself. And so it was daunting to let someone go in and do brain surgery on me. But ultimately I knew that if it was going to be able to, if my participation was going to help people down the road, then it's something I knew I wanted to do. If I was selected, which eventually I was, I knew that if I had passed up being the first person and then someone else went and something had happened, then I would never forgive myself. Something bad happened, I would never forgive myself. So I knew that I wanted to take that risk on myself and hopefully make it safer for everyone that came after me. If there were any disappointments with the first Neuralink, then I knew I wanted to take that on myself and hopefully make it easier for everyone else after me. I feel like everyone wants the chance to do something for the world, to do something out of charity or do something that will impact other people. It's a drive that I think is beautiful about the human race. And so I don't know, it all kind of made sense to me. I never felt like it wasn't something I wanted to do. I always felt like it was something, if I could do, I should do. And that gave me a lot of confidence in my decision. It didn't take very long for me to come to that conclusion. It was a fairly easy decision for me, and once I made the decision, I never looked back. I never doubted myself at all.
That's cool. I'm really impressed. Did you, during this time, listen to opinions of other people, like your family? Did you try? Did you try to gather some information about? Because there are also other companies, right, who are doing different way the chips. Or did you were like, okay, I want to do this one, and I'm going for it.
Yeah, I listened to everyone that wanted to talk to me about it. I didn't tell very many people because I wasn't allowed to. It was pretty secretive at that point. Obviously, I talked to my family about it. I talked to my buddy Bane, who helped me apply for it, and I told my parents that if this was something they didn't want me to do, then I wouldn't do it. I kind of left that decision up to them in a lot of ways. I talked it through with them and told them as much as I could about it, gave them as much information as I could. They were extremely supportive of me. Obviously, my mom was a bit worried, have her son go through brain surgery, but they just wanted me to be happy and do what I wanted to do. Some of my friends that I was ultimately allowed to tell were very hesitant. I'm one of their best friends, and they didn't want to see me get hurt. They want to see anything happen to me, and this being the first of its kind, they were worried. So they had a lot of things to say about it. especially with Elon Musk and the stories that had come out before. It was I don't know. It was there were a lot of tough conversations with my friends about it, but ultimately they were very supportive of me as well. But
Yeah.
I did my due diligence and I tried to read as much as possible about it and really understand what I was getting myself into.
You mentioned that also some people were influenced by the fact that it's coming from Elon Musk. Did it influence you positively? Because, you know, his mission is actually to help the humanity in many directions. By knowing that it's from Elon Musk, where you're like, okay, that's even better. Actually, I like his story, and I even more like this company.
Yeah, yeah. I I like Elon Musk. I think a lot of what he's doing is incredible, and I think we have a shared vision in a lot of ways of wanting to help humanity, wanting to better humanity. We might have some, maybe we don't line up on a lot of the same issues, but that's okay because having someone like him work for people like me, doing the work that he's doing for people like me who are handicapped, who have disabilities. It's like having the most powerful man in the world in some respects, backing what I believe is most important to me in a lot of ways. It's amazing. It's a great feeling. And so I was really excited to work with him. I knew that it came with a lot of media attention and everything. And luckily, I'm just okay talking to people. I don't mind, having conversations. I don't think I'm shy in any way, so I think it worked
Yay.
out all right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I saw you did tons of interviews.
yeah.
That was one of the things I was wondering about. How do you see the media coverage of all this? Are you happy with it? What they're exposing?
Um, yeah, yes and no. I think a lot of the people that I have encountered, a lot of people that I've worked with, have been incredibly nice. They've been more than welcoming. They've been very, very good to me.
Mm.
Some people have not. Some of the people that I've talked to, I can tell they're just trying to get something out of me. They're just trying to get me to say something bad about Neuralink or
Yeah.
Elon Musk, which like I can tell. I'm a people
Mm.
person. I know how they try to steer conversations. I know what they're trying to look for
We'll
when they
catch
say
them
certain
before
things to
they
me.
do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not that naive to think that they're
Yeah.
all just incredibly interested in me as a person, and like I don't have that big of a head yet. So it's a little bit disappointing. And some stuff when we released everything about all the thread retraction, the media coverage on it was extremely poor.
Yeah.
I think especially the mainstream media,
Mhm.
they the way that they portrayed it was not how I would have. And when they asked me about it, I always told them how much of a positive story it is
Mm.
um, about overcoming adversity and about how even with all of the threads being pulled out, that we were still able to surpass previous records, that we were able to pull ourselves back up and really make something of it. And I thought that was a moment of triumph above everything else. And that's not how they portrayed it at all, even though I said that to every single one of them.
Mm.
I don't think any of them put that in. So it's things like that. They just want to take jabs at Elon Musk and make sure that whatever he does doesn't succeed, which they're not doing a very good job at. But I don't know. I can tell. I see it. I'm not so blind to not be able to understand what's going on. So it doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, I saw one article. I don't want to name the publication, but one article was like exactly as you said about the threats, and it's like it failed, and it's like no, actually it didn't. There were many information around it. The whole
Mm.
context. If you look at the whole context, you could have, you know, published it in a completely different way. And then I read about what you answered, and it made sense, but that's, I guess, people are right. Not everyone is the same, and they all have different directions. But and as with the starships, you probably watch it. Some publication just wrote, okay, it exploded, right? But if you would
Yeah.
be listening to Elon Musk and his target, that was completely different goal, right? And in a way, it succeeded actually. So yeah, that's interesting to hear it from you because you have a first-hand experience and in that.
Yeah, which is why I'm so surprised. I'm literally the only person in the world that's done this who's been a part of this, and it seems like they care less about what I think and more about what they think, which is bizarre. It's bizarre to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. You also mentioned the psychological tests. I don't know. My question is, anyone, for example, who would want in the future to have the chip, do you think they can like prepare somehow for the testings and for the interviews, or it's more how much you align them already naturally as you are?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much you can do to prepare for it. Like some of the things are just to make sure that you're not, you don't have any mental deficiencies. There's nothing wrong with you psychologically, or a lot of it is also just to create a baseline so they know like where you're at day one, and then in 6 months when they do it again, are you still at that level, or has the implant affected your ability to, reason, ability to have a good memory, things along those lines. So there's nothing really to prepare for. It's just go in and be yourself.
Pure luck.
Yeah, pure luck. That's a good way to put it. That's how I got in. It was just pure luck. So
Pure luck. Well, why not to toss the coin, right?
yeah, exactly.
And now, if I'm correct, you have it for a year, right? What do you think will happen after that? Are you able to stay with them? Do you think you have to apply separately for second round of chip, or what's the plan?
Yeah. So after a year, that's the initial phase of the study. There's still another 5 years of sort of follow up where I'll still have it.
Oh wow!
So I'll be in the study. Yeah, I'll be in the study for 6 years. If
With the
you know
same chip,
the same
right?
chip, yeah, yeah. God willing, everything works out, then I'll stay in the study as much as they want me, as long as they want me. Um, at the time when it finally does come to an end, or if I were to decide to leave, which I could leave at any time. I could call them up today and say, I don't want to do this anymore. Um, and we have one of two options. One, they will just deactivate it. They'll come over and just turn it off, and I won't be able to use it again. Or two, they'll physically go in and do another surgery and take it out. I don't know. I don't know which I would prefer. But then once I'm out of the study, hopefully at some point, I would get an upgrade and continue being able to use it, because it would be hard going from this back to nothing again. I'm sure there's going to be a time when that will be the case. I don't expect to have this for the rest of my life. I know that once I'm out of the study, there might be a gap of time when I won't have it and I'll have to wait for the next upgrade, which is okay with me. I lived without it for 7 years with my accident. I think I'll be fine without it after the study's over.
Well, it seems that some other companies, even they have different methods, of course, and it's a wholly different pattern. But some of them seem to be even faster in accepting new people. But I guess once you deal with Neuralink, you just stay with them and wait for their directions, right? Probably.
Yeah, yeah. I hope to be working with Neuralink for as long as they want me, not just in the study, but after the study's over, in some capacity, consulting, or just working with them in any way I can. I wouldn't mind that at all. They've been very, very good to me, and what they're doing, I'm absolutely in love with the work that they have in store, and just everything that they've accomplished so far. So I'd like to help and continue progressing that as much as possible.
We already spoke a little bit about the possible developments, like using the app in an iPhone. You mentioned about possibly driving a car. I also read about robotic arm or maybe even a skeleton. What do you think would be like the ideal next scenario, which would be best for you?
Uh, an Optimus robot would
Mm,
probably be the best. I mean, it would make me the most independent I
mm,
think that I've been since my accident. If I had um, a a full Optimus robot I could control with the Neuralink and have it do things for me, um, have it help me be like a caretaker that's with me 24/7. I think that would make the most difference
mm,
because um, it would eliminate my caretakers having to do a lot for me,
mm.
and I think that's a that's a huge step forward. And I think that would change a lot of people's lives. So
Yeah.
we'll see if that happens. Again, FDA approval, so we'll see.
Yeah, the Optimus is not far from mass production, right? So maybe we are pretty close to it. But would you be, for
Yeah,
example, the first person who would let the Optimus go to your home and take care of you?
yeah, yeah. I've thrown the idea. I've thrown the idea around. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Do you find that the questions from the media are often repetitive, that they're asking the same things and
Yeah,
over and over again? Yeah.
yeah. That's okay. I'm so scatterbrained that everything I say comes out different every time.
Yeah.
So I try to vary my answers as much as possible because I don't want to say the same thing 100 times. So when I get asked the same question 100 times, I try to answer it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I've noticed that they don't always write it differently. They
Yeah.
basically write the same things over and over again,
Yeah.
which is interesting to me because I'm definitely answering them a different way for every person. So yeah, I don't know, but I try. It's not that bad.
Do you feel like there is some angle which actually should be covered more and is not? Because you are like the expert going through it. I, read some of the questions you had, and as you said, many are repetitive. But do you think there's some angle which, for example, you would recommend covering more?
Um, Yeah, I don't know. I would say, like, honestly, just how much of a like triumph all of the negative parts of this have been. That's the one thing I want people to know more is, I have plus or minus, well, I have about 15% of the electrodes still in my brain, which is a pretty small number. And that's
Yeah.
plus or minus, they said plus or minus maybe 10%. So it could be as low as 5%, it could be as high as 25%. And to have surpassed what it was towards the beginning when more were in my brain, and to um, be able to do what I'm still able to do with the cursor, it blows my mind. That was the
Mhm.
first thing that I thought when they told me how many threads were still in my brain
Yeah.
and how many electrodes were still in my brain. And all I can think is, man, when the next participant comes in and they have hopefully complete like all 100% or 90% of the threads and electrodes, like what are they going to be able to do that I'm not able to do? And it
Mhm.
gives me a lot of hope for the future,
Mhm.
um, and just where this is going. I really am excited to be a part of this. I'm super lucky to be a part of this, and I get to meet great people all the time. Like it's so much fun. So I just think it's changed my life, and there might be some like ethical concerns down the road, but for right now, I'm just trying to help people with disabilities. That's my number one focus, and as much as I can do to that end, then I'll do whatever I have to, even if I have to do a million interviews over and over again and answer the same questions. Like I don't mind. I'll survive.
And please, if I may, you said 15% plus or minus, and you are still breaking all the records with that, right? I also was
Yeah,
thinking, like, let's say it would really get to like 80, 90%. Like, it's superhuman at that point because now you are already breaking records. And
yeah,
I can imagine it would be.
yeah. I've mentioned that to them too. What they tell me is it it's not necessarily a one-to-one. It doesn't mean that the more threads doesn't necessarily mean better performance. it might just be oversaturated at that point where, you don't need all of them. Maybe you only need the 15%. But I don't know. In my mind, the more, the better. So I'm really looking forward to P2 coming in and smashing all of my records. I hope it happens on day one.
And if I may, last question, I was curious, you, as we spoke a little bit, you also watched the debate between Trump and Biden. It's your field, you studied politics, you were initially interested.
Yeah.
I wondered, since you are, for example, doing such an unpoliticized work, right? People really think about survival, about moving forward. How do you view these disagreements in politics and people disagreeing over certain things when there are such much more interesting and important things to focus on?
I mean, I wouldn't say that what I'm doing is any more or less important than things going on in the political sphere. I think some things that are going on in politics are a bit ridiculous, but the future of our country is at stake in a lot of ways. And so I think that's just as important as what I'm doing. It's just different. There are important things going on in every field in the world. Things that, some things that might completely eclipse what I'm doing. Like I would say, like the things with SpaceX are incredibly important as well. I don't necessarily think that what I'm doing is the most important piece of the puzzle in the world. And so I'm actually a fairly political person. I try not to talk about it because I don't want to alienate anyone when I'm doing this thing. It's not really my place. I've always felt that people who are in a special field, people who are, they get famous for doing one thing or another, acting or sports or music. The fact that they use their platform to talk about politics sometimes irks me a little bit because I don't necessarily know like what they know about it, and it turns out that sometimes they don't know anything about it. They just are able to say whatever they want because they have a camera in front of their face. And I don't want to be that. At some point, maybe when I don't have the name of Neuralink attached to me, I don't want to say anything that'll come back bad on them as well. So I try to keep it all to myself. It's hard because I'm a very opinionated person.
Yeah. So basically, your message is the most important is to add value in the positive direction, no matter what it is.
Yeah, that's a much better way than I put it. Yeah.
No, you just described it very well. I just summarized what you said. Yeah. Well, thank you, Noland. I know you. It's been for quite already a long time, so I super appreciate that you made time. It's a huge honor for me, and I really am a big fan of your mission. I think it's impressive. Anyone who actually is brave and does something so big, I think it's very inspirational, as I said, for everyone to know the story and learn from it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for having me on. I've had a great time. This is always a lot of fun for me. So appreciate you sticking with me. And yeah, thanks for doing this.